Hey folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we are continuing with the interpretation of statutes, deeds and documents, right? And this is not the first lecture we are having on this topic. We have already had a couple of lectures, right, where we have seen the basics, we have seen the meanings of various terminologies, seen what are the various rules of interpretation, and have also understood the first primary rule and the rule that is a mandate for you to apply to check, right, which is the rule of literal interpretation, right? So if anyone of you have missed out on those videos, please go back, watch those videos and then come to this, because we are going in a flow and there is a connection in all the videos, right? So the primary consideration for today's lecture would be the rule of reasonable interpretation, right, which is the rule of reasonable construction also, as you can say that, right? So basically, if you remember, then in the second or third class I have explained it to you, right, what are the various rules and what do they mean. I had given you a summary over there, right? So if you remember, then I have always said that other rules of interpretation, may it be primary or may it be secondary, is only applied when the first rule of literal interpretation fails, right? And when we talk about the rule of reasonable interpretation, right, then we deviate from the literal meaning of the word and construct it as per what could be reasonable in the situation, right? If we are trying to interpret a statute, right, which reflects any particular situation, but when we read the statute in its literal term, right, the meaning becomes absurd, we are going somewhere else in some other direction, then in that case what do is we try to apply our reasoning sense, right? We try to apply the reasonableness to check whether or not the statute will be applicable in this position, right? When the literal interpretation does not give you the proper meaning, you go by the reasonable word. Okay, if this is not accurately what it is, then reasonably this should be it, right? You're getting what I mean to say? You'll get it more clear when we go on with the various provisions of this rule, right? So when we start with the discussion of a rule, the first thing that we need to understand is the applicability of the rule, right? When will this rule be applicable? When do you apply this rule? What are the situations, what are the circumstances that calls for the application of the rule of reasonable interpretation, right? So we have already seen that this rule is applicable only when the first rule of literal interpretation fails, right? And what happens when it fails? Either the ordinary meaning of the term, right? When we interpret any statute, we interpret the text, the statement as per its literal meaning, right, then the meaning that we finally derive out of those words become absurd, right? That makes no sense out of it. And the words individually, they have a meaning, but when we collate those words and apply it to the given situation, it is not working, right? It is absurd. It is like no point of using it. Otherwise, if you construct it, obviously if there are English words over there, right, then you can interpret it. It will obviously give you one or the other meaning. But when you try and apply that meaning in context of where you are applying it, right, or in context of the theme for which you are trying to interpret it, there is no connection formed, right? That means both of them are going off trail. That your situation is something different and the literal interpretation is something entirely different. You have no correlation between the two, right? Then we say that the ordinary meaning goes absurd, right? And if it is going absurd, that means your purpose is not achieved. If you're calling a particular section for any particular provision to check, and when you try and interpret that section, the meaning takes you somewhere else, right? Or if you are trying to make a judgment, right, basically the interpretation is used by the court. So the judge over here is trying to make a judgment, right? He has a case in front of him. There's a plaintiff, right, and there's the other person also, and now there's a conflict, right? Who is right, who is wrong? And the decision of the court will play a major role, right? So now when the court tried to interpret the situation, right, with the literal construction, he is not satisfied. Why? Because the purpose is not achieved. He is not able to clearly frame out the difference. So in that case, he will have to take support of the reasonable construction. He has to be a little reasonable, right? Whatever is more prominent, right? What is reasonably being suited to the situation, that is what he'll try and apply. And you should also understand that when we say it is absurd, right, that means it is logically defective. It gives rise to some kind of an ambiguity. You feel by literally interpreting it that there is something incomplete, or it is going in some other direction, it is inconsistent with what we are trying to interpret, right? So then you think that yes, there is a need to make an interpretation on the basis of the purpose, on the basis of the policy, object, the spirit of law, right? And that is when you bring in the law or the rule of reasonable interpretation. And we always know that whenever a law is enacted, right, it is always enacted for a purpose, right? So the legislature, it frames the law for the purpose that it finds it fit. But, right, while framing the law, maybe the language that they're using, right, that gives rise to some kind of an ambiguity, right? The language of the statute that they have come up with, right, they does not coincide with what the purpose was. So the purpose goes in some other direction, and the language, right, if you literally interpret it, it gives you a meaning that goes on to some other direction. That means the purpose for which it was built is not achieved, right? In that case, the court will have to resort to the reasonable interpretation, right? So next we move on to the key features, right? The key features of reasonable interpretation. Right. So first of all, it is to give effect. It is the giving effect to the intention of the legislation. So listen, whenever you're trying to reasonably interpret a statute, right, what you actually need to see is why was this particular statute enacted, right? Whenever the legislature, they frame a law, right, they have a situation in front of them, and just to tackle the situation, to promote uniformity, right, throughout the country, they bring out the statute that everybody in the situation will follow this law, right? So they have a purpose in front of them, and just to fulfill the cause of that purpose, they have brought out a statute, they have enacted a law. So as it is the duty of the court, right, to give full effect to the intention of the legislature, it will first have to see the circumstances that made the legislature come up with such a statute. Right, what was the circumstance that was prevailing in front of the legislature that called for a statute like this, right? And what was the purpose that they sought out to fulfill by enactment of the particular statute? And that has to be kept in mind when you are interpreting the statute, that yes, it has to be in line with what the legislature intended. Right? So reasonably, this is what it should be. Reasonably, it should be moving in this direction. It should be fulfilling the purpose of the legislature, right? And the second key feature is to have a rational meaning. So when a statute is framed, right, it aims to reach a rational, fair, and a sensible meaning. Right? That is what is the basic intention of the legislature while framing a statute. Right? So ordinarily the words that are used in the statute should be used in their natural and the ordinary meaning, right? But in places when there is a rise of where there is a rise in the ambiguity, right, in that statute, then an attempt must be made to discover what was the intent of the legislature, right, and then try to fulfill that purpose, and then try to give the entire statute a reasonable bent in its interpretation, right? So you understand when will the reasonable construction be applicable, and what are the key features behind it? That it has to give an effect to the intention of the statute, and should be reasonably construed, going beyond the ordinary and the natural meaning of the sentence, right? You have to give effect to the intention of the legislature as well, right? So now let us see what are the steps that are used to formulate a reasonable construction. So when I talk of steps, if you think that yes, there is a hard and fast rule that the court can follow stepwise to reach out the reasonable interpretation, then you are wrong, right? There is no particular rule that can be fixed. Why? Because when you try and apply your reasonableness, right, it depends on situation to situation to that what extent are you going to, what is the bend, what is the curve that you are taking. You always depend on situation to situation. So you don't have a fixed methodology for that, right? But generally what the code follows, right, is what we'll be discussing over here. So if you just read out what is there on the screen for you as steps, then you see the first you have to evaluate whether the statute is clear and whether it resolves the given situation. Right? If it does, well and good, go ahead with the literal construction. But if it does not, right, then you have to consider the intention of the statute and modify the meaning of the word. This is exactly what we have seen in the key features as well, right? But over here we'll see what are the steps that lead to this position, right? What are the steps that is followed by the code to achieve that objective. So what happens is when the statute is in front of the code, right, it has a situation and it refers to a statute. Then what does the statute say in this particular situation? So first, when the code is reading the statute, right, they have to examine whether it is giving you a clear meaning or whether it is not giving you a clear meaning. That means the meaning is vague, right? It is going ambiguous, right? And for this, the code should look at the statute on the whole. Right? It is not about a particular sentence in the entire section or the entire law or statute, but the entire statute. What has it to say from scratch to the end may or may not be the entire thing is applicable on your situation. But still, when you are referring to a statute, you will refer to the complete statute. Why? Because maybe at the end there are few certain statements that bend the entire meaning of the statute. Right? So as we know that half knowledge is dangerous, so you cannot just interpret the half statute. You'll have to go by the entire statute and then see whether the meaning that is derived, that you are able to derive out of it, is clear or is it vague. Right? And then the provision for which the statute is, the provision that the statute contains, right, the code will have to analyze, right, whether that provision that we are referring to is the relevant provision that is needed for the specific case. Right? Because if you find that it is vague, it is not giving you the exact thing, then you'll have to consider, right, whether or not you are looking at the right statute, right? Whether it is the correct statute that links to the situation that you have in front of you, and whether you believe that yes, they will give you the way out of it, right? And then when you have seen that okay, yes, this is the exact statute that we need to follow, and the meaning is either clear or it is vague, wherever it is going. But if you think that yes, the statute in the position what you see, right, the bare statute that you have in front of you, if it is in a position to give you or to resolve your purpose, that means if you feel that yes, the statute can be applied to reach out a conclusion, right, then it is well and good, you apply it. Otherwise, if you feel that no, this is not appropriate and you need to mold it accordingly, right, and you need to interpret applying your reasoning skills, applying your logic, applying your rationale, then you will have to mold it accordingly, right? Then what you do is whatever interpretation you are getting, right, you apply it to the situation that you have, and then if you see that yes, your situation is being solved, right, the purpose that you sought to resolve is actually being resolved. But yes, you are being able to reach a conclusion by using this meaning, then you will utilize it as it is. Otherwise, you will again need further modifications into it. Right? And then finally, if you are able to evaluate that yes, the statute is giving me the clear meaning and my purpose is solved, then you do not need to move ahead with it and you are done. Right? But where did the reasonable construction come into play? That was the situation where literal interpretation would have worked, right? But your reasonable construction comes into play only when the literal interpretation fails, right? So we will consider it to be the second situation when the statute is not clear and it is not able to resolve the given situation, right? Then what you do is that you, as the court or as the judge of the court, take the charge in your hand, right? And then what you do is that you will consider the intention of the statute. What was the intention? What remedy did the statute or did the legislature seek to achieve, right? And then you will add your own contribution by modifying the meaning of the words, right? So this is the basic step that you check. First you check what is the literal meaning, then you check whether you have actually sought to sought a rescue to the correct statute, whether that statute is applicable on what the situation you have, and then whether or not it is able to solve the purpose. Right? And if there is a problem, then you will have to resort to the intention of the statute, intention of the legislature, and then accordingly take the charge in your hand and modify it with applying your reasons, your reasoning skills. Right? So are you clear with all of those? Yes, right? So now let us see what is the logic behind it. Right? The next thing that we need to consider is the logic. So when we talk about the logic behind reasonable construction, right, we basically mean that why do we use the reasonable construction? What is the purpose behind? What is the logic of using it? And the main logic behind using the rule of literal or the rule of reasonable construction, the reasonable interpretation, is that the intention of the statute is beyond words. Right? It has to be given a greater weightage as compared to the words that is used over there. Right? When we talk about the words, we are talking about the literal interpretation, but when it fails, right, then we have to sort our rescue to the intention behind that statute. Right? What is the intention of the legislature? And just to fulfill that intention, to support the legislature in achieving its intention, achieving the desired objective, we have to apply the rule of reasonable construction, right, to give an appropriate meaning which is in line with the intention of the legislature, the intention of the statute, right? And the other logic behind is that there can be a fault in drafting the statute, right? We cannot expect that all the law, all the acts that are applicable in the country, they are drafted with divine precision and the perfect clarity. Right? That is not always possible. There may be at times that the statute is not being able to achieve its purpose if you look at the drafting of the statute. Right? It is not drafted so precisely and so specifically that it covers all the situations that it deals with. Right? Even this is a talent. It needs fine craftsmanship to draft the statute. Right? You have to consider all the points, all the thoughts, what can be, what cannot be, incorporate all of it in that sentence, in that frame of language. Right? So it takes a great deal to update or to write a statute. Right? So we can interpret, we can reasonably think that okay, at some point of time maybe the statute do not meet the exact standard that we expect out of it. Right? Maybe the draftsmanship at that point of time fails or deviates from the core structure of it. And we know that even the legislature, it is built up of people, right? And people make mistakes. So there can be omission, there can be any deficiency, any deviation from the real intention of the legislature, right, in drafting the statute. Right? If you need to use a word in English specifically for any particular situation, then you have n number of words for that. Right? And which exact word will fit the exact purpose, right, 100% satisfy the intention, is a difficult task to choose. Right? So there can be a fault in drafting of the statute. So in that case, if there is an ambiguity that gets created because of the fault in the draftsmanship, the court looks at the purpose, scheme and design of the statute, and then it adds its own contribution to amend it and to give it a reasonable interpretation. Right? So that is about the logic behind using the reasonable interpretation. Okay with it? So finally we have the non-applicability portion. When will the rule of reasonable construction not be applicable, or when can it not be used? So basically your rule of reasonable interpretation will not be applicable if the ordinary meaning is clear. Right? When the literal interpretation fulfills the purpose, then you need not go beyond. Always remember that all the other rules will be applicable only when the rule of literal interpretation fails. Right? So that is the number one trick that I told you. I'll be discussing tricks between the classes. So whenever you write an answer, right, and you have, as you know, you have never been asked a question on literal interpretation. You have always been asked questions on some other rule of interpretation. Right? So when you start the answer, you always mention that this is either the primary rule or the secondary rule as per the situation, and this will be used only when the first rule of the primary interpretation, that is the rule of literal construction or literal interpretation has failed to achieve the purpose. Right? That is the first line that you always start the word with, your answer with. Right? There are 5 tips. I'll give you 5 sentences that you use when your answer is complete. And out of those 5, only one will keep changing. So this will be a constant statement in all your answers that you have. Right? First trick, ticked. So if the words are clear and they are fulfilling the purpose, there is no need of going beyond. Next is reasonable construction is absurd. So if you are applying your reasoning skills, right, and then whatever you interpret as per the reasonable construction, that becomes absurd, right, and or that levies injustice on one of the party of the case, right, or if it is inconsistent with what the other statute has to mention, right, then you will not apply the rule of reasonable construction. Clear? So what all things have we seen in this rule of reasonable interpretation? First is the applicability, that it will be applicable only when the rule of literal interpretation fails, right, when the ordinary meaning is absurd, and when the purpose that was laid down by the legislature, by the statute, is not achieved. Right? The key features being that you need to give effect to the intention of the legislature, not the exact meaning or the literal interpretation of the word, but the intention behind those words, the intention behind the creation of the statute. Right? And then you will also have to give it a rational meaning. Okay? Then next we saw the steps. You know all the 5 steps, that yes, first of all, you examine whether the words are clear or vague. Right? Then you see whether it is the relevant, what is the relevant provision, right, that you are using. Right? Whether it can be applied as it is or does it need any modification. Then you see whether by using it your issue is resolved. Right? And then you evaluate whether the statute is clear and resolves the situation. If it does, well and good, but if it fails to achieve that purpose, then you consider the intention of the statute and then modify the meaning of the words accordingly. Right? Then what is the logic behind using the rule of reasonable construction? First, that you need to bring out the intention of the statute rather than the literal meaning of the word that has been given by the statute. And second, you always think that yes, there can be a fault in drafting the statute. We are all human beings, we can make mistakes. There can be omission, there can be there's a problem, right? English is a language where you can use millions of words for delivering a single meaning, right? You can use n number of words over there. So which word would most suitably fit into the situation is again a task for the draftsman to analyze, right? So there is something that goes for a toss, and then you have to apply your reasoning skills over there. And at last, the non-applicability. If you do not come to this rule, that means the rule of literal interpretation achieves the purpose. Or second, if you apply the rule of reasonable construction, you give rise to absurdity, inconsistency, or injustice. Right? So that is all about the rule of reasonable construction. So before concluding the class, I would like to discuss one question with you. Right? So the question is on the screen, please go through it. It says, explain the principle of grammatical interpretation vis-a-vis logical interpretation, especially in the context that the duty of the court is to administer the law as it stands and not to find out whether the law is just or reasonable. That means yes, the court needs to interpret the court needs to administer the law as it stands. Like it will not interpret, it will not need to decide whether or not the law is just and reasonable. Right? So how do you go ahead with answering such a question? So you would go on to say that yes, interpretation is either it is a grammatical interpretation or a logical interpretation, right? And in the logical interpretation you have all the other primary rule of interpretation, including the reasonable interpretation. Right? So if it is there are the 2 kinds of interpretation, then you go on to explain what those are specifically. So you say that yes, the grammatical interpretation, in it we only examine the words, we only examine the language of the statute, right? What is the natural meaning, which is uninfluenced by any external factor, without adding a word, without reducing a word. The grammatical and the ordinary meaning and the technical meaning should be construed, should be interpreted, right? And you go on to write everything you know about the grammatical interpretation. You will have to explain what grammatical interpretation means, right? that you give natural effect to the words as far as possible, right? What is the you will always depend upon the primary words that have been used in the statute and not going behind the logics, right? And finally, if you conclude that yes, it is able to solve your purpose and there is no ambiguity, then that means this is what the legislature wanted to say, right? And accordingly we frame the context, right? And then again you go on to explain the logical interpretation, that yes, it seeks to satisfy the evidence of the true intention of the legislature, right? When the words are not clear, when it gives rise to ambiguity, when it takes some other direction, when it is not able to fulfill the purpose, then we try to seek what was the intention of the statute. Why was the statute created? What was the intention of the legislature? And use terminologies like the interpretation must be according to the purpose, policy, object and spirit of law, right? And so where the ordinary meaning fails to achieve its objective, then we use the logical construction to reach out and to fulfill the intention of the statute, right? And once you have explained both of them, then you go ahead with the comparison between the both. That one is based on the rules, one is the normal grammatical interpretation, and the other is logical, the other is reasoning, the other is reasonable, right? The court applies its brain rather than being technical on it. So the court will also always prefer to go ahead with the logical interpretation over the literal interpretation, right? Why? Because over there you will always fulfill the need of the statute, the intention behind the creation of the statute, the intention of the legislature, that will always be fulfilled in the logical interpretation, but that may be defeated at some point of time when you go ahead with the literal construction. Then you go on to show some of the limitations of the literal construction, that yeah, there can be issue with the draftman, the language can be absurd, the meaning cannot be brought in line to the intention of the statute, and the other limitations also that we had discussed in the class, right? Like the words, they may have different meaning for different people, right? The dictionary meaning may be different from the ordinary meaning. The intention of the law is ignored when we see the literal interpretation, and that the assumption of perfect draftsmanship is a wrong assumption. There can be fault in the drafting, right? And then finally, to conclude, you say that the duty of the court is to administer the law as it stands, right? And it is not within the jurisdiction of the court to see whether the law is just or reasonable. So whatever the law says, either you are going with the logical interpretation or the literal interpretation, you will always go by what the law says. You will not be amending or modifying the law, right? Because that is not your job, that is the job of the legislature, right? Your job is just to interpret it. So you may apply your logics and reasonableness in interpreting it at some point of time, but you will not go ahead with amending the law altogether, right? So that is how you go with it. And this was a question that was asked in your CA final November 2001 examination, right? So with that, we come to the end of the discussion of the reasonable construction, right? And as we have also been through this question, now I think you would have gained a little more confidence on this topic, right? If that is so, then we are happy with the chapter and we are going very smooth with it in the flow, and there are still certain rules that needs to be covered, and we'll take them up in the next class. So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you and bye-bye.